I used to think the graveyard shift was easy money. No customers, no supervisors breathing down your neck, no rush. Just long hours, fluorescent lights, and the quiet hum of machines reminding you that time was still moving, even when it felt like the rest of the world had stopped. I learned very quickly that night has its own rules. This happened when I was 22. I just dropped out of college and needed something, anything to cover rent. A small security company hired me to work overnight at an industrial storage complex on the edge of town. It was a dead zone after sunset. No nearby houses, no late-night traffic, just warehouses, chain-link fences, and acres of asphalt. The shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. They told me the same thing everyone hears in jobs like that. Nothing ever happens here. The first few weeks proved them right. I sat in a tiny guard shack by the front gate, watching security cameras and doing a patrol every hour. The place felt abandoned, like the buildings had been constructed for a future that never arrived. My footsteps echoed too loudly when I walked. Even small noises sounded wrong at night. Still, nothing happened until the call started. There was a landline in the guard shack. It was old, beige plastic, curled cord, buttons worn smooth. I was told it was for emergencies only. Dispatch might call. Maintenance might call. Otherwise, it should stay silent. On my fourth week, around 2:17 a.m., it rang for the first time. The sound nearly made me jump out of my chair. I stared at the phone for a few seconds before answering. "Security," I said. "This is Mark." There was breathing on the other end. Slow, controlled, like someone holding the phone too close to their mouth. "Hello?" I asked again. A man's voice finally came through, quiet, strained. I think I'm in the wrong place." I glanced at the security monitors. All gates were closed. Motion sensors were quiet. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I was told to come here," the man said. "They said someone would be working." My stomach tightened. "Sir, this is a private facility. There's no public access at night." He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I can see you." Every hair on my arm stood up. I looked at the cameras again, zooming, scanning. Nothing. No headlights. No figures near the gate. "That's not possible," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "You're sitting down," he replied. "Inside the little building. The light above you keeps flickering." I looked up. The light flickered. I stood so fast my chair tipped over. "Where are you?" I demanded. A pause. Then, very softly, "I'm not supposed to say." The line went dead. I spent the next hour walking the perimeter with my flashlight and radio, heart pounding, expecting to see someone step out from behind a building. No one did. By morning, I convinced myself it was a prank. Maybe someone spoofed the line. Maybe dispatch was messing with me. I didn't mention it to anyone. That was my mistake. The next night, the phone rang again, 2:19 a.m. This time, I answered immediately. "Security," I said. "It's colder tonight," the voice said. Same man. Same calm tone. "How do you know that?" I asked. "You're wearing the jacket now," he replied. "You weren't yesterday." My chest felt tight. I hadn't told anyone about the jacket. I'd brought it because the temperature dropped after midnight, and the shack heater barely worked. "You need to leave the property," I said. "Now." "I can't," he said. "I already tried." I swallowed. "Where are you?" Another pause. Then, "Do you remember the East Warehouse?" I froze. That building had been off limits since I started. Locked. Power shut off. The company said it was unsafe, structural damage from years ago. "Yes," I said carefully. "I'm inside it." "That's impossible," I said. "It's sealed." "I know," he said. "That's what they told me too." The call ended again. I broke protocol and called my supervisor. He sounded annoyed, half asleep. "There's no one in that building," he said. "It's been empty for years." "What about calls coming from inside the facility?" I asked. He sighed. "Look, Mark, are you messing around?" "I'm serious." Another pause, this one heavier. "Just finish your shift," he said. "We'll talk tomorrow." The third call came the next night. 2:22 a.m. I didn't want to answer it, but I did. "He's closer now," the voice said. "Who is he?" I asked. "The one who walks when the lights are off." My mouth went dry. "I can hear his boots," the man whispered. "They don't make sense. They stop, then start again somewhere else." I checked the camera feeds. One screen was black, then another, then another. Only the camera inside the guard shack still worked. "I don't think I'm supposed to be here," the man said. "I think this place remembers things." A loud thud echoed somewhere outside. It sounded like metal being struck. "I can see the gate," the man continued, "but I don't think it opens from this side." My radio crackled. Static. Then a voice, distorted, overlapping itself. "Mark." I dropped the radio. The man on the phone whispered, "He knows your name now." The call disconnected. Every instinct told me to leave. But security protocol drilled something into your head. Don't abandon post. I wish I had. At 3:04 a.m., motion sensors triggered in the East Warehouse. That shouldn't have been possible. I watched the camera feed come back online, grainy, barely visible. There was someone standing inside. Not moving, just standing in the center of the warehouse floor. Facing the camera, the phone rang. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again. Finally, I picked it up. "I'm not alone anymore," the man said. The figure on the screen took a step forward. Then another. The lights inside the warehouse flickered on for just a second. Long enough for me to see there was no face where one should have been. The screen went black. The phone line went dead. So did the power. I ran. I didn't grab my jacket. I didn't grab my radio. I just ran to my car and drove until the sun came up. I quit that job the same morning. A week later, I heard the East Warehouse was demolished after a night shift guard went missing. They never found him. But sometimes, very late at night, my phone rings. And when I answer, there's breathing on the other end. Slow, controlled, waiting for me to remember where I work now. The job posting didn't mention how quiet it would be. It just said, "Overnight morgue attendant, experience preferred." I was 24, freshly out of a failed EMT program, and desperate for work. I'd already seen dead bodies before. Car accidents, heart attacks, overdoses. I told myself this wouldn't be much different. I was wrong. The county morgue sat behind the main hospital, detached from everything else like an afterthought. A squat concrete building with no windows on the ground floor. The kind of place people never noticed during the day and actively avoided at night. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. They called it a 24-hour facility, but that was generous. After midnight, no one came in unless something had gone very wrong. On my first night, the supervisor, a tired woman named Carol, walked me through the basics. Bodies arrived through the loading bay. Each one came with paperwork, a tow tag, and a time of death. My job was simple. Log arrivals, place them in cold storage, and make sure nothing unusual happened. She hesitated before saying that last part. "Unusual how?" I asked. Carol gave a thin smile. "You'll see." The building smelled faintly of disinfectant and metal. The fluorescent lights hummed constantly, like they were struggling to stay awake. Cold seeped into your bones, no matter how many layers you wore. Before she left, Carol pointed to the phone on the desk. "If it rings after midnight," she said, "answer it." "What about before midnight?" I asked. "It won't," she replied. The first few nights were uneventful. I sat at the desk, filling out forms, listening to the low mechanical thrum of the refrigeration units. Every now and then, a body arrived, usually escorted by hospital staff who avoided eye contact and spoke in whispers. By 1 a.m., the place felt abandoned. By 2 a.m., it felt watched. I noticed it on my fourth shift. I was walking down the main storage corridor, checking the temperature gauges, when I heard something that didn't belong. Breathing. Not mine. It was slow and uneven, like someone struggling to draw air through fluid-filled lungs. I froze. The sound came from the far end of the corridor, where the older refrigeration units were kept, units that hadn't been used in years. "Hello," I called out. My voice echoed too loudly. The breathing stopped. I stood there for a full minute before convincing myself it was just the machines cycling. Old equipment made noise. I knew that. Still, I walked back to the desk faster than usual. At 12:58 a.m., the phone rang. I stared at it. Carol's words echoed in my head. "If it rings after midnight, answer it." I picked up the receiver. "Morgue," I said. "This is Daniel." There was silence. Then, barely audible, someone whispered, "I'm cold." My stomach tightened. "Who is this?" I asked. "I don't think I'm supposed to be here," the voice said. It was a man. Young. Weak. "This is a restricted line. I said. "If this is a prank." "I can hear the doors," he interrupted. "They keep opening." I looked toward the corridor. All doors were closed. "Where are you calling from?" I asked. "In the drawer," he said. The line went dead. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, long after the dial tone started. I didn't check the drawers that night. I told myself it was someone messing with me. A hospital extension misrouted. Stress. Imagination. The second call came the next night. 1:02 a.m. "I can't feel my hands anymore," the voice said. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly across the floor. "Listen," I said, forcing myself to breathe. "This isn't funny. I don't think I'm alive," the man whispered. The overhead lights flickered. "I can hear you walking," he added. "Your shoes are loud." I hadn't moved. "You need to stop calling this number," I said. "I didn't call," he replied. "You answered." The call ended. That was the night I started noticing other things. Toe tags twisted around ankles that I knew I tied straight. Drawers left slightly open. Temperature logs off by a few degrees, with no mechanical explanation. On my 7th shift, a body came in around 11:40 p.m. Male, early 30s. No visible trauma. Cause of death listed as undetermined. When I rolled the gurney toward cold storage, I noticed his eyes weren't fully closed. That happens sometimes. Muscles relax. It's normal. Still, I reached out to shut them. The moment my fingers brushed his eyelids, his chest twitched. Just once. A small, sharp movement, like a reflex. I stumbled back, heart racing. I waited. Nothing else happened. I logged the body and slid him into drawer C17. At 1:17 a.m., the phone rang again. "I remember you," the voice said. My hand shook as I answered. "From where?" "You're the one who touched my face," he whispered. I looked at the drawer logs. C17. The drawer began to vibrate. Softly at first, then harder, metal rattling against metal. "I can hear the others," the man said. "They don't like it when the lights go out." The corridor lights flickered once, twice, and then shut off entirely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the hall in dim red. The vibration stopped. "I think they're awake now," the voice said. Something slammed against the inside of a drawer. Then another. Then several. Up and down the corridor. I dropped the phone and ran. I didn't stop until I reached the loading bay, yanking at the door handle. It wouldn't open. The intercom crackled. Carol's voice came through, distorted. "Daniel," she said, "why are you out of position?" "I need to leave," I shouted. "Something's wrong." There was a pause. Then she said, "You answered the phone, didn't you?" The lights went out completely. In the darkness, I heard drawers sliding open. And breathing. Everywhere. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up outside, sitting against the building, the sun just starting to rise. The loading bay door was open. Behind me, the building was silent. I quit that morning. Months later, I looked up death records out of morbid curiosity. Drawer C17. The man's time of death had been revised. Original, 11:22 p.m. Updated, 1:19 a.m. The exact moment the phone rang. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore, because sometimes, very late at night, I hear breathing before anyone speaks. And it sounds like it's coming from somewhere very close. If you work hospital transport long enough, you stop thinking of the building as one place. It becomes layers. There's the hospital people see during the day. Bright lights, nurses moving fast, families in waiting rooms pretending not to be afraid. Then there's the version that exists after midnight, when half the floors go dark and the hallways stretch out longer than they should. That's the one I worked in. I was 26, doing overnight patient transport while finishing my certification. The shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. My job was simple. Move patients from one department to another, ER to radiology, ICU to surgery prep, surgery to recovery, and sometimes to places no one talked about. By 2 a.m., the hospital changed. Elevators took longer. Call buttons lagged. Lights flickered just enough to make you second-guess what you saw. You could walk down a hallway you'd walked 100 times before and suddenly feel like you were trespassing. The first rule of night transport was never use the stairs unless you absolutely had to. The second rule was never ask where a patient was going if the paperwork already had a destination. I broke both rules on the same night. It started with a transport request at 3:12 a.m. The pager vibrated once. Transport request, room 6B19. Status, nonverbal. Destination, lower level, Unit B. I frowned. There was no Unit B on the lower level. Not officially. Still, the request was logged, signed, and time-stamped. That meant someone with access approved it. I grabbed a wheelchair and headed up to 6B. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. Most patients were asleep. Lights dimmed. The floor smelled faintly of antiseptic and old coffee. Room 6B, 19's door was already open. Inside sat a man in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. He was thin, pale, dressed in a standard hospital gown. His hands rested neatly in his lap. His eyes were open, fixed on the doorway. "Good morning," I said softly. "I'm here to take you downstairs." He didn't respond. I checked the chart clipped to the bed. No name, just a barcode and the word observation stamped in red. "Can you stand?" I asked. Nothing. I stepped closer to help him into the wheelchair and felt it immediately. The room was colder than the rest of the floor. Not by a little, by a lot. When I touched his arm, my fingers brushed something slick. Sweat, I assumed. Then I noticed his skin wasn't warm. It wasn't cold either. It felt wrong, like touching something that had been outside too long. I pulled my hand back. "You ready?" I asked again, forcing myself to smile. His mouth opened. For a second, I thought he was going to speak. Instead, he inhaled, sharp and shallow, and then closed his mouth again. I transferred him to the wheelchair as gently as I could. He didn't help, didn't resist, just sat there, staring straight ahead. The elevator ride down was silent. I tried to make small talk, asked how he was feeling, if he needed anything. He didn't blink. When the doors opened on the lower level, the lights were dimmer than usual, and quieter. Unit B wasn't listed on the directory. The hallway I pushed him down wasn't marked at all. No room numbers, no signage, just long, gray walls and doors that all looked the same. "This is as far as I usually go," I said, mostly to myself. The man's head turned slightly, just enough to look at me. His eyes were glassy. "Don't stop," he said. His voice sounded like it hadn't been used in a long time. I swallowed. "Sir, I need to confirm the destination." "They don't like it when you stop," he whispered. The lights flickered. Somewhere ahead, a door opened. I pushed the wheelchair forward. We reached an unmarked set of double doors. No window, no keypad, just a small sign bolted to the wall. "Transport only." I knocked. Nothing. Then the doors unlocked on their own. Inside was a long corridor sloping downward. Not a ramp, not stairs. Something in between. I hesitated. "Please," the man said. "They're waiting." I pushed him inside. The doors closed behind us with a soft, final click. The air down there was stale. Old, like it had been recycled too many times. I passed doors with faded labels. Equipment rooms. Storage. Things that hadn't been used in years. Then I noticed something else. We weren't alone. Shapes stood just inside the doorways. Not moving. Watching. "Who are they?" I whispered. The man didn't answer. His breathing had become rapid. We reached the end of the corridor. Another set of doors waited there, this time with a small window. I looked through. The room beyond was filled with beds. Every bed was occupied, and every patient was awake. Their eyes tracked us as we entered. A nurse stepped forward. I didn't recognize her uniform. "You're late," she said flatly. "I'm not supposed to be here," I said. "There's been a mistake." She smiled. "We know." Hands grabbed the wheelchair. I stepped back instinctively and felt something grab my wrist. Cold fingers. "Don't leave me," the man whispered. The nurse's smile faded. "He's not cleared yet." Cleared for what? The lights flickered violently. Alarms started going off somewhere far above us. And then everything went black. I woke up in an empty hallway on the lower level. No wheelchair, no patient, no corridor. Just a transport pager lying on the floor beside me. It buzzed once. "Transport request complete." I quit that night. The hospital denied Unit B existed. Denied the request. Denied the patient. But months later, while reviewing archive records for school, I found something. A series of patients listed as nonverbal observation. All transferred overnight. All with destinations marked lower level, B. all pronounced dead within minutes of arrival. I still work in healthcare, but I refuse overnight shifts because sometimes in the elevator, I feel the car hesitate between floors. And I swear I hear a voice behind me whisper, "Don't stop." I took the night shift at the gas station because I thought it would be quiet. That was the lie I told myself. The truth was simpler. No one else wanted it. The hours were bad, the location was worse, and there had been incidents that management never explained properly. The station sat just off a two-lane highway that cut through miles of farmland and woods. During the day, it looked harmless enough. 2 pumps, a small convenience store, a flickering ice freezer by the door. At night, it felt forgotten. My shift ran from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. I was alone from midnight onward. No security, no co-workers, just me, the register, and a wall of glass that felt thinner with every passing hour. The first few nights were uneventful. A trucker here, a tired commuter there, headlights appearing out of nowhere, then vanishing back into the dark. By 1:30 a.m., traffic usually stopped completely. That was when the man started showing up. The first time, it was around 2:05 a.m. I noticed him on the cameras before he came inside. He stood by pump 2, just outside the reach of the overhead lights. I remember thinking it was strange that he hadn't pulled up a car. He was just standing there, watching the store. After a few seconds, he walked in. He looked normal at first glance, mid-30s, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. His face was pale, but not alarmingly so. "Evening," I said. He nodded but didn't speak. He wandered the aisles slowly, not looking at anything in particular. When he reached the counter, he placed a single bottle of water down. I rang it up. "That'll be $1.79. He stared at the register screen. Then he looked up at me. "Is it safe here?" he asked. The question caught me off guard. Yeah, I said. "As safe as anywhere else, I guess." He nodded, paid an exact change, and left. He didn't take the water. The next night, he came back. Same time, 2:06 a.m. Same jacket, same cap. This time, he didn't browse. He walked straight to the counter. "Do you lock the doors?" he asked. "Sometimes," I said. "Why?" "Because they don't like locked doors," he replied. Before I could ask who they were, he turned and walked out. I watched him on the camera. He stood by pump 2 again. Then, slowly, he walked backward into the darkness beyond the lights and disappeared. On the third night, he didn't come in. Instead, the bathroom door alarm went off at 2:14 a.m. I frowned. The bathroom was locked overnight. I checked the camera feed. The bathroom door was open. I hadn't opened it. Heart pounding, I grabbed the key and walked down the short hallway. The door creaked as I pushed it open. The bathroom was empty. The mirror was fogged. 3 words were written across it in clear streaks. "We wait here." I locked the bathroom and returned to the counter, hands shaking. At 2:16 a.m., the front door chimed. The man stepped inside. "You saw it," he said. I stared at him. "What is this? Who are you?" He glanced toward the windows. "You shouldn't be alone." "I don't have a choice," I snapped. He leaned closer. "Neither do they." I watched his reflection in the glass behind him and noticed something wrong. He didn't cast one. That was the night the power went out. Not all at once. Aisle by aisle, light by light, until only the glow from the register remained. I backed away. "What do you want?" I asked. "To warn you," he said. "They come when the store is empty." Something knocked against the window. Then another. Smudges appeared on the glass. Handprints. From the outside. Dozens of them. Pressing. The man's eyes darted toward the door. "They're early." I reached for the phone. "Dead." The door rattled. The man grabbed my arm. His hand was ice cold. "Don't let them see you move," he whispered. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, I heard breathing. Not one person. Many. Crowded. The door burst open. And suddenly, the lights came back on. The store was empty. The man was gone. No handprints. No footprints. Just silence. I quit the next morning. A week later, the station closed. The owner said sales weren't worth it anymore. But when I drive past it at night, I still see the lights on. And sometimes, someone standing by pump 2, watching. The room had no windows. That was intentional. No sense of time. No sense of weather. Just screens and static and the constant hum of equipment reminding you that the outside world still existed somewhere. I worked overnight CCTV for a private security firm that monitored multiple properties across the city. Warehouses, office buildings, closed malls, parking garages, places that emptied out after dark and stayed that way until morning. My shift ran from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. The rules were simple. Watch the screens, log anomalies, report intrusions, and never, under any circumstances, zoom in unless instructed. No one explained that last rule. They didn't have to. The first few weeks were painfully dull. Most of the cameras showed empty hallways and locked doors. Occasionally, a stray cat in a parking lot. Sometimes a drunk wandering where they shouldn't be. Then I noticed a man. He appeared on camera 14B, a service corridor in an abandoned office complex scheduled for demolition. No one was supposed to be there. The building had been vacant for years. He stood perfectly still in the center of the frame, facing the camera. He didn't trigger motion alerts. That should have been impossible. I checked the timestamp. 2:37 a.m. I marked it as a glitch and moved on. The next night, he was there again. Same camera, same spot, same posture. This time he was closer. Not because he'd moved, but because the camera feed looked tighter, as if something had adjusted it. I leaned forward in my chair. He was smiling. The smile didn't reach his eyes. I glanced at the control panel. The zoom slider hadn't moved. My stomach churned. At 2:38 a.m., all other camera feeds froze. Every screen went still, except camera 14B. The man lifted his hand and waved. I reported it. The supervisor on duty, a guy named Harris, walked over, coffee in hand. Glitch, he said after a quick look. Old building. Bad wiring. He waved at the camera, I said. Harris sighed. You staring too long at these screens messes with your head. Before leaving, he added quietly, don't zoom in. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The man started appearing on other cameras. Different buildings. Different locations. Always between 2:30 and 2:45 a.m. Always facing the camera. Always smiling. He never walked in a frame. He was just there. I started feeling like he was looking through the screens. At me. On the fifth night, I noticed something worse. On camera 22A, a parking garage downtown, the man stood near a concrete pillar. Behind him, faintly scratched into the wall, were names. Dozens of them. I recognized one. It was mine. My hand shook. I checked the system logs. Camera 22A had never been zoomed. The image sharpened on its own. The man leaned closer to the camera. His lips moved. I couldn't hear him, but I understood the words. You noticed. The lights in the control room flickered. Every screen showed him now. Same smile. Same eyes. The phone rang. I answered without thinking. You weren't supposed to look, Harris said. My blood ran cold. What is this? He hesitated. It's a watcher. A what? Something that learned how to use our systems, he said. It only shows itself to night operators. People who stay too long. People who pay attention. On the screens, the man's smile widened. You logged him, Harris continued. That's how it knows you can see. What happens now? I whispered. Eventually, Harris said, you'll zoom in. The call cut out. The control panel beeped. Zoom function enabled. My hand moved on its own. The man's face filled the screen. His eyes were empty. Behind them, movement, like something wearing him. He spoke. This time I heard it. I'm done watching, he said. Now it's your turn. Every screen went black. I woke up on my desk at 8:01 a.m. Day shift had arrived. They said I was unresponsive, staring at the screens, smiling. I quit that day, but it didn't quit me, because sometimes late at night, my phone camera turns on by itself, and on the screen, I see myself, standing behind me, smiling.